Hey girl, hey! Quick question, where do you fall on your to-do list? My name is Jamia Ponder, and let me tell you, I didn't even make the list. I am host and creator of the Mrs. Beside, a safe space dedicated to the real ones, standing beside and never behind. Girl, this life ain't no joke, but best believe everything you want, you are worth. It's time, let's air it all out. Trust me, I understand. Whoo, child, it's a lot. Hey girls, welcome back to another episode of the Mrs. Beside. Today I am especially grateful and honored to have Ms. Shanta Blue here with me. I literally just reached out to her on Instagram because I was sort of fangirling and I was looking for something specific for today's episode, and she graciously accepted the invitation to be here. So thank you so much, Shanta, for giving up of your morning to be here with me. I really appreciate it, and I don't take it lightly.
Thank you for having me. It's been an honor to be asked to do your website, your podcast, and it's fun. I love doing these.
Yay. Okay, so I'm just going to jump right in. I had this idea that I wanted to address with therapists, but specifically a Black woman, because I feel like these issues are specific to Black women. Not that they don't touch other women as well. So if you are not Black, these issues still may touch you, right? But I want to make sure that from the Black perspective, and Black women in particular, we carry, I feel like, and I might be partial because I am Black, but I feel like we carry so much. And oftentimes are told to be strong, and you got to work, and you got to cook, and you got to, work
You got
out.
to do all the things, huh? All of it.
Water, and, all of these things. And so today's episode is entitled From the Boardroom to the Bedroom. And just about how, all of those responsibilities sort of intertwine. You got to show up at work. Right now, we have COVID, so you're not physically showing up at work, but you have to be present. Your presence has to be felt, and your value has to be felt and added in a work environment. And then you got to show up at home. And right now, if you're working from home, those lines are very blurred, and, we're trying to figure out everything in a new dynamic. So I wanted to bring Shanta on today and just talk about some of those things. But before we do, I'd love for you to introduce yourself to us.
Great. So my name is Shanta Blue. I am a sex and relationship therapist, licensed clinical social worker, certified sex therapist, all the things, because, that's what Black women do.
Right, y'all. Okay. I like, it's like 17 letters behind this woman's name. Go ahead.
Right. So I am the co-owner and director of therapeutic services at Blue Counseling and Wellness Center, which is a mental health and nutrition counseling center. So I own it with my older sister, who is a registered dietitian nutritionist. So we work together, and our main goal is to provide resources and health resources to the Black community and communities of color, because we noticed that in our neighborhood, there weren't a lot of holistic ways for Black people to get their health going, right? So we have the corner stores, we have the liquor stores, we have the churches, but there is not a lot of community health centers in our area other than like the emergency rooms or things like that. So we're hoping to build and grow and provide kind of like a one-stop shop for folks to get their mental health counseling, their nutrition counseling. And as we continue to grow, we would love to include more providers in that. So getting like an OBGYN, acupuncturist, yoga, all the things that, will help us just live our best lives possible.
Yeah.
But for now, my specialty is in sex therapy. So I see individuals, couples, particularly Black women, and helping them learn how to express themselves sexually and live a life where they get to design what happens to them. They get to design the careers they want, the families they want, and of course, the sexuality that they want.
Yeah, and that's super important because I think it all starts with ownership. And the more that we feel in charge of that, the better we're able to mentally attack that, right? I wanted to ask you something that I didn't previously ask, but as you were talking, it was sort of reminded, it sort of went off in my brain that why is therapy such a stigma type of a deal in the Black community? Because it'd be like, oh, you don't need no therapy, you just need to talk to Jesus. It's like, yeah, maybe I do, but I also need to talk to somebody who got some letters, right? That can help me sort of unpack some of that. So why do you feel like it can be such a stigma?
Yeah, therapy has definitely been a taboo in the Black community for a large range of reasons, right? Initially, we have a huge mistrust of medical providers, right? Based off of, historically things like the Tuskegee experiments and them doing experiments on Black women under the guise of gynecological research. Like, so we have all these like preconceived notions that this medical system is not there to help protect us and support us in that way. And therapy kind of falls under that umbrella as well, because this is, seemingly a medical provider. Like, everybody calls me doctor when they first meet me, and I have to explain to them, I'm not a doctor. I don't know if I'll ever get to that point, because that's a lot more schoolwork that I'm not ready to do yet.
We can talk about that later. You can do it.
I can, but energetically, I need to just rest at this point. So it's that piece of it, as well as it's kind of like what happens in this house stays in this house. Yeah. So you don't go around and tell outside people our family business.
Right.
And that's also what therapy means. Like, we're, inviting this, seemingly stranger into our most intimate details of our lives.
Yeah.
And so that's a big kind of hesitancy. Like, how much do I say? Are they going to think I'm, crazy, quote unquote? Right. Or are they going to come and try to take my children from my home if I say the wrong thing? Valid. Like, those type of things often go through people's minds when they think of therapy. And then, there's not a lot of Black and brown therapists out there either. Like, as we're starting to reduce that stigma, we are starting to see more platforms that are catering to Black therapists and finding, a person who looks like you to help you through a lot of these emotional difficulties that you're having. And so it may seem for some folks that is, a large amount of Black and brown therapists, but in comparison to our counterparts, we make up a very small percentage. I think the last time I looked at our NASW, which is the National Association of Social Workers, numbers, Black therapists made up maybe 1 or 2% of overall therapists. So yeah, it's definitely a small field for us. And then I'm even more niche down because I talk about sex. Yes, and as far as I know, I'm actually only Black sex therapist, like certified sex therapist in my region at this moment. I think there's one other in South Jersey, but I'm in North Jersey. So,
well, and I'm gonna tell y'all, I did some digging because you are right. There aren't many. And so I feel even the more honored to have you here. But in that sort of assessment that you gave, I heard a lot of what I've been seeing, right? So you talked about the Tuskegee experiment where, all of these things were happening to Black women. But there was once an idea like, do Black people even feel pain? And my husband's he's just a recent MD grad, but I've been seeing a lot of statistics about how Black women are more likely to die in childbirth and just all of these things. And so then it brings me to sort of what we were talking about earlier with the generational and systemic traumas that we carry. And so can you talk about some of the pressures that women are under having to perform now in a work environment, well, that's now home, but then also having to perform at home. So what are some of those pressures? I know what I felt, but I want to hear from a professional standpoint. What are some of those pressures that exist in that area?
So women, and especially Black women, have always been taught we have to be on point with all aspects of our lives, right? We always have to have our hair neatly done, the nails and makeup always done, dressed to the nines whenever we're out in public. We have to be 3 times as better as all of our counterparts professionally, thinking of like our career growth. We always have to do and go that extra mile to be seen and to be heard and to climb up that, corporate ladder. And so we've always just had to be the best representation of everything. We are constantly being held to a much higher standard that we haven't even set for ourselves. Like, we did not set the standard. This is society setting the standard. And so when we think about generational traumas kind of added on top of that, thinking about back when we were enslaved and we were forced into this country and held hostage, essentially, that, there were certain things that were bestowed upon us and, forced on us to make sure that we are the ones providing. We were the ones taking care of the children. They were systematically taking away our husbands and our protectors from the families. So we would end up having to fend for ourselves, right? And thinking, we are these independent beings. Eventually, once we were out of enslavement, we had to still take care of our families by ourselves because, no one else could be trusted with that task. And it's really difficult to break free from that and allow, other people to come in and help us and support us during these difficult moments. So there's a lot of different areas where it's kind of like we've been trained, literally generations and generations of Black women have been trained to be everything to everyone.
Yeah. And I mean, even you talk about appearance, like you have to appear to be non-threatening, right? You got to be strong enough to voice your opinion, but not be seen as aggressive, right? So it's like all of these microaggressions that sort of exist now that have really honestly been normalized. It's like, I have to do that because, if I don't, then I won't be given this opportunity, but also realizing that you'll never be that good. Right. So how do we get into an area where we're confident enough to ask for the things that we need, both at work and at home, whether it be the right pay, our value in monetary worth, or even our value at home, right? Getting our spouses to see that, because there is this idea, and it doesn't exist in all homes, right? So I don't want to generalize, but there is an idea that in the Black home specifically, like that you need to be a contributing member as well, right? So you need to work. And if you don't work, then this house should be spotless. My contribution is the check. You know what I mean? So how do we get to a place where we can really communicate that and have it heard? Because I know for me, it was frustrating when I had to check all these boxes at work, and then I had to come home and check all of these, like drained.
Yes.
Drained. Drained emotionally, mentally, and physically. And it still wasn't enough.
So the first thing I always say is take a breath, right? Recognize that you are allowed to rest. I think that's also a misconception amongst the Black community as a whole, is that if we're not doing, we are not, valuable.
Yeah.
We are not beings that, are worth something. So it's okay to take a breath. It's okay to take a rest and a nap and all the things that just help you slow down. And then in those moments when you're able to just kind of slow down and be still, see how your body feels in that moment. See what you need and what is actually bringing you joy and happiness and connection to the things that you love, right? And so once we know what we want, what we need, and what's important to us, we are able to better set boundaries with people. So if I hold certain things at a high value, I need to make sure that it's incorporated into my life, however I see fit, right? And so with that, that means we have to let people know, like, hey, I don't have time to do these things for you because I need to do certain things for me, right? And that's okay. You're not being selfish when you say that. You're,
Right.
not being self-absorbed in any way because you need to take care of you.
Yeah.
And I always, it might be cliche at this point, but when you think about, when you're in an airplane, if ever we get back on airplanes at this point,
Please.
but when we go in the airplane, like the flight attendants always say, make sure you put on your mask first before you help and assist, children and other folks who may be having difficulties. It's the same thing in our everyday life. We have to make sure we're okay, that we're healthy, that we're getting the nutrients and sustenance that we need in order to be able to support and uplift other people in our lives that are important to us.
Yeah, that's
a big point.
That's so good. And I always remember that phrase, like, other people are only going to treat you how you allow them. So the fact that you say boundaries is really good, because if you can set those boundaries, it's easier for you to apply them across the board. Even with work, set boundaries. You're a person, you don't run on batteries. Okay. You need rest. You need the time to recharge and to do those things that will, like you say, bring you joy. So I think that's super, super, super key. And when you do that, it helps to build your confidence, which can translate sexually. So I had a question on here that I feel like maybe I'll just give you both of them at one time. But so being able to communicate that, right, requires a certain level of vulnerability in your relationship, your marriage, or whatever. And so how can using that space of self-confidence and vulnerability, how does that translate sensually and then sexually? Because I know for me now, I can't speak for everybody, but when I feel emotionally connected, I want to physically connect. But if me and you are not here, I would like for you to take your ashy hands off of me. So, so can you touch on that a little bit?
Definitely. So the more we're advocating for our boundaries, just, in the home, when it comes to chores, or, at work, when it comes to setting deadlines and not taking work home, things like that, it naturally builds some self-confidence in us to advocate for other things in our lives, and vice versa. Right. So I'm big on sexual self-care. And so it's this idea of you have sexual and sensual needs that you need to prioritize, just like you would prioritize rest and, taking showers and things like that. So as you start to explore your own sexual needs, whether that be through masturbation, whether that be through some form of nudity, whether that be through connection with a partner, as you're exploring that, you're learning what you need sexually overall. And that also builds that confidence. And a lot of times, if you are a partner, you do want to start building intimacy too, right? So it's not always just about how connected the two of you can get sexually. It's more about that intimacy piece where I feel like I can be vulnerable with you. I feel like I can take emotional risk with you. I feel like I can trust you with my deepest, darkest secrets, and trust you if we're trying something new, like if we're going on a new adventure, if we're moving to a new location, if I'm starting a new career, I trust that you can support me and have my back and help me get to where I'm looking to go, essentially. And so when we have that open trust with our partner, yes, the sex can definitely improve and be a lot more meaningful. And honestly, sex is mostly mental, right? So especially for women, it's mostly mental. It's, if I have a long ass to-do list, if I am worried about where the kids are, what the kids are doing, and if they're going to bust in the room, or thinking about all my career stuff, then there's no way I'm going to be focused on having sex with my partner at that moment. Or if I'm pissed off at my partner, there. It's like, don't touch me. Like, what are you doing?
Right.
So because of that mental piece, there needs to be some type of buildup to it, right? You need to talk to me in a certain way. You need to show me some affection in the way I like to receive love and affection, whether that be quality time, words of affirmation, touch, gifts, whatever it is. I need to feel that leading up to my sexual encounters with you.
Yeah, that's, ooh, girl, you said a mouthful.
I know.
I'm all over here. Yes, girl, yes. No. But even talking about like vulnerability, not think that I know that a lot of us, and I keep saying specifically Black women, but like I was talking to a girlfriend and we were just talking about how like some of us are walking around and living and working and momming and wifing and all of these things, but we are carrying trauma. Legit trauma, whether it happened to us physically, whether it happened to us emotionally. And so I know that, and again, I keep saying for me, but for me, it started to seep out in other areas of my life. So emotional traumas that I had would play out in the way that I parented. And it may not always represent in a negative way, right? Some things may come out in a positive way, but it's way over the top, So I'll give you two examples. One, I grew up a large part of my life not having my biological father in my life. And so when I became a mom, then I extra showed up, right? So I would do all the things, every field trip, every room mom thing, whether they were in a sport, whatever the sport was, like I would inundate myself so that they knew mom was there. I never wanted anybody to say mom was never there or that I forgot. And it took me getting into counseling before I realized like it was literally killing me. Like I was so tired. And it's like, your kids are not missing anything. I felt the need to overproduce in that way. And then even physically, when I was 15 or 14, I worked at a fast food place. And I had a manager that he was literally sexually harassing me. Like he would walk by me, touch my breast or my butt or, advances that were unwanted to me that I wasn't strong enough to say no to. And on top of that, I never told my parents. And so when I got married, if my husband were to brush past me and touch my butt, like I would legit go off. I'd be like, you did not touch me. I was not expecting it, but it was literally reverting me back to a place where I didn't have control of that. And I wasn't strong enough to say something. So I know that if I can give an example of emotional and physical, there has to be other women that are in that place. And so I had to open up to my husband to be vulnerable enough to explain these things so that we could work through them, but it requires a certain amount of trust. So what do you say to the woman who's carrying those traumas about how we can start to unpack those? Maybe even starting with recognizing that they even exist.
Exactly. And that first step to recognizing it sometimes is actually going to therapy. And with therapy, it doesn't necessarily, fix all of your problems, right? There's no magic wand where we could wave over you and, you're magically healed from all these relational traumas that you've experienced. And it can be a great source for you to recognize certain patterns in your life.
Yeah.
When you recognize, just in your daily life that, you're being triggered by certain things, that you are just snapping out of nowhere at people you say you love and you do care about, and you're kind of like awestruck, like, why did this happen? And they're looking at you like, what's happening? Like, I did something really simple. I'm not sure what I did wrong, type of thing. That might be a cue to say, okay, maybe I really need to go talk to somebody about this and learn how to unpack this and process whatever happened to me. And moving with that is talking to your partner and your loved ones and letting them know, hey, this actually happened to me. This is why I tend to respond this way. And in these moments, this is what I need you to do to help support me in this. Because sometimes, we're looking to get responses from our partner that we wished we would have got when those, traumatic events happen. Like we wish the adult in our life or the important person in our life at that moment was able to support us and care for us and love for us, but we didn't get that. And so now we're expecting it from our partners or our current family members, and we're still not getting it because they don't know we need it.
Right.
So if we can figure out what those triggers are and what form of support and love we need in that moment, we can share that and be able to receive it.
Yeah. And I found I was putting an unrealistic expectation on him that he would never measure up to, right? Mm-hmm. Not that it's not his job to cater to my emotional needs and, sort of speak my love language, but he's not my dad. He'll never fill that place. And so I think that's so important that you say that, you're projecting those expectations. And yes, you should have expectations, but they should be realistic to your relationship. And then, communicated and agreed upon. Like, this is what I'm going to
Exactly. Because people need to know what expectations you have. Right. And so they know whether or not they can meet them. Like, oh yeah, I could definitely do this, or no, I don't have the capacity to do that ever.
Correct. And coming to an understanding, okay, now this is what we agreed upon. Now, if you break that, then we have a different conversation, right? But I can't just expect that you're going to know to do these things. And it's an ongoing thing because your needs are going to keep changing as you grow and as your family structure changes, your needs will change. And so it's an ongoing, ever changing.
Yes. Life is a journey, right? Yes. It's ever evolving. It's super fluid, and we just have to kind of go with the waves and see where it leads us, and just, hopefully we survive it.
Yeah. And so, talking about those traumas, I feel like women, and I'll say specifically Black women, but we have our guard up, right? And I know for me, I did for a long time, I would use jokes. And I would joke around with everybody because I'm like, I'm not going to let you close enough in to know the real me. Mm-hmm. So in really growing up, my mom, she made me be strong, which is awesome because, she'd be like, you can't be falling apart on everyone. One day you're going to be somebody's mama, somebody's wife. You're going to have a lot on your shoulders. And she was right. Okay. She was right. But I feel like the piece that was missing was that she didn't tell me that I didn't have to do it by myself, that it was okay to have those expectations, those communicated expectations, that this is how much I can handle, and setting those boundaries. So I want to hear from you about sort of strength as a strength, but also as a weakness and how that affects us.
Yes. So my clients will say this, my friends will say this. I hate the term independent woman. I absolutely cannot stand it. I prefer the term self-sufficient, right? I'm self-sufficient because, yes, I can provide for myself. I can do the things that I need to continue to do to thrive and to live. And I understand that I can't do it all. I need support in being self-sufficient because I feel like having the notion of independence means that you don't need anybody. You don't need a partner. You don't need family. You don't need friends. You can literally do every single thing by yourself without any human interaction. Right. And humans need interaction with other humans. We need people to thrive. That's why this whole pandemic situation has been really difficult for a lot of people because we need other people. We need that physical connection. When we're laughing with folks, when we're giving hugs and kisses and things like that, it releases a hormone called oxytocin in our systems. And that's also seen when mothers are giving birth and breastfeeding and during sex. And so all of these different moments releases this hormone that allows us to bond bond with each other, to,
Yeah.
it increases our mood, it increases our confidence, it increases our ability to make emotional and social decisions. And so when we're not having those interactions with people, that starts to decrease. Like we start, feeling irritable and cranky. We start snapping on people a lot more. We're distancing ourselves a lot more. So that means we're getting depressed. We might be experiencing some anxiety on some level. And so we need people. We need folks to just connect with in different ways and to help us reduce some of the stressors that we have in our lives, even if it's just through talking or actually someone physically helping us through something is important. And so, yes, strength is amazing. Being that strong Black woman can be awesome, and also recognizing that we still need the support of others when we can. And it's okay to ask for help. It doesn't mean that you are necessarily weak when you ask for help. It just means that, hey, like, this is too much. It's just a lot. You've carried it so far on your own. Let somebody else carry it the rest of the way.
Yep. And more yep. And I literally wrote on my paper about asking for help, because I feel like it can be made to feel like, oh, you can't, you can't do it. It's something, like it's something wrong with you, versus making you actually smart. Because, I'd be like, your daddy not going to be out here looking all fine. Y'all not going to kill me. Okay. But putting those responsibilities back in other people's hands. So for me, when my kids got older, hey, you guys need to do this. My oldest daughter, you can help with the dishes. My son, you can fold washcloths. These things that they can also take responsibility in, that helps to relieve the pressure. Or the other piece of it is finding your non-negotiables, right? So I can go to bed. I'll sleep like a lamb if it's clothes in that basket and they're clean. I might not be able to go to bed if there's dishes in the sink. So figuring out, what I can go to bed with, well, it can help relieve some of those stressors, because you don't have to do it all.
Yes. And I'm a firm believer in work smarter, not harder, right? Mm-hmm. So learn how to delegate. And that's what I've actually been learning in my business, as an entrepreneur, and saying like, there's only but so many hours in the day. There's no way I can do this all on my own. I need to learn how to delegate and give other people tasks that they are more than willing and capable of doing. And I don't have to micromanage them and doing either. Right. And, it's funny because my mom was the same way. So growing up, both of my parents worked outside of the home. And so they both worked 9 to 5 jobs. And my mom would still come home and cook dinner for us and make sure that we were all taken care of. But once we got to a certain age, we had to start contributing too. We had chores. We had to, cook certain dishes that we were allowed to cook on the stove when, somebody was coming home late. She taught us to pitch in because she wasn't the only one taking care of this house. And my dad even pitched in on certain things. So it was that communication. It was that learning how to delegate when, there was no possible way we would have that energy to do it all on our own.
And then letting them do it. Right. So that was a learning process for me. I'd be like, oh, can you help me do this? No, I don't want you to do it that way. You do it the other. It's like, ma'am, listen, his cleaning the bathroom is cleaner than it was. And I didn't have to do it, And so it's really releasing those things out of your hands and being like, it's okay. It's okay. Or if I absolutely just must clean the bathroom this way, then let him clean the kitchen or whatever it is. My 12-year-old, she can put some hot dogs and doggone Foreman grill. Okay. That is dinner for y'all, on the things that I can't, I'm at capacity. So I think the more that we can sort of integrate those smaller changes, and they're scalable changes, right? So depending on what your life looks like right now, you might not be able to do the 2 meats and, 4 sides. It might be a 90-second pack of rice. Okay.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
As long as people are fed, that's all that matters at this
That's what I'm
point.
saying. That's all I'm saying. And
Right.
when you start combining all of those things for me, then we can start moving, we can start getting emotionally satisfied, which can lead to a physical representation in our relationship piece. So I had on my little paper here, moving sex from tasked expectation to tangible excitement. And so can you maybe just like close the loop for us on the releasing the emotional, physical traumas, allowing us to be vulnerable in our relationship, and how all of that sort of threads through and ties into that physical connection and that intimacy piece that we're so longing to have fulfilled in our relationships.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So like we've been kind of saying all along, is once we know what we need, we're able to set those boundaries. And we're also freeing up time for us to explore other avenues of ourselves, other parts of ourselves. And sexuality is a big part of who we are. And it shows up in just about every aspect of our lives, in our careers, how we deal with family situations, and in our romantic relationships as well. And so when we're learning how to connect with ourselves sexually, building that confidence, building that agency to say, hey, this is what I need sexually right now. This is that confidence that I need to feel like I'm this, wonderful goddess that can be loved on and appreciated and just, tired, right? And so we do have to have those conversations with our partners. And even if we're single, having those conversations with our sexual partners, whoever they may be, and to say like, hey, this is how I need sex to be. This is how I need intimacy to be, and that emotional connection to be, right? And it's okay if we develop these sexual ideals that don't necessarily fit within this box that we've been taught needs to happen, right? So I get a lot of folks, especially my married folks, who believe sex is their duty. They have to provide sex to their partner, or their partner is going to get it from somewhere else. And I understand where that comes from. A lot of the folks that I work with are religious or grew up in religious households. And that was something that was kind of harped on. You have these wifely duties that you need to maintain, like along with, the clean house and the cooking of the food. You also have to be literally this kind of like sex doll for your husband,
Right.
Where like whenever he wants sex, he gets to have sex, or he's going to be unfaithful on you. And that's like the most horrific thing you could tell a wife, that if they don't do these specific things, then they're automatically going to lose their partner. And that's like, I feel like that's blasphemy. Like that's just absolute ridiculousness. Like if my partner is going to leave me because I'm not giving them sex whenever they want sex, then this may not be the partner for me. This may not be someone who needs to be in my life for the rest of my life. And so having those conversations of what those expectations are important, because we do have different needs. And yes, our partner has different needs as well. Like you might have a partner who needs sex every day, and compromising and coming up with an agreement to say, I don't know if I give that to you every day, but I will make sure that, when we do it, it is going to be pleasurable for the both of us. And that's also a thing. Like pleasure is our right. We deserve to experience pleasure in all aspects of our lives, and especially sexually. So it's up to us to get the pleasure that we actually need. And it's up to our partner to want to also provide that pleasure. It's a reciprocal relationship.
Right.
So, yeah.
And I've heard that timer 3,000 about, like it being our wifely duty, and that, if he's not getting it from you, he's getting it from somewhere. It's like, people make choices. So if he's going to do that, it doesn't matter if you're having sex 4 times a day, it would not matter, because that would be a choice that he would be making, or she, or whoever you're in that relationship with, that person would make that choice. And so I vehemently abhor that theory and that idea, because, it's bred in fear.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I must do this because I'm afraid that if I don't, something else will happen. And so it's like, we should not be living our lives in a relationship where fear is the driving factor, So I think that you touched on some really important things over this entire interview, just about ownership of that sexual experience, and really setting those boundaries, because to me, confidence is the most sexy thing that we can own. And so the more confidence that you have in that area, the more confidence you exude. He'd be like, "Oh, girl, you looking good today." I'd be like, "What are these rollers? What is?" But I'm wearing a lot of these rollers.
I look good, but okay. I know.
As much as I do for you, sir. So, but when you are living in that space of fear, it can build bitterness. It can build a multitude of emotions that are counterproductive to that relationship. And so I was talking to somebody else that I interviewed in season 1, and she was just giving the two, she painted the 2 pictures for me of in a relationship with her ex-husband and then her current husband, and just how love manifested in those 2 different relationships, but one built her up and the other one tore her down. And so I just want to make sure that, I encourage anybody that's listening to make sure that you evaluate the love in your relationship and see, are these things building me up? And if so, why not? And how can I help to fix that by fixing me? Starting with myself, if I'm tired, why am I tired? Have I picked up more than I should? What do I need to put down? Learning the power of no, and really figuring out what it is that I want, so then I can communicate that and set those boundaries, right? Like, nope, sorry, work. Y'all don't call me after 6 o'clock. If you do, you are welcome to leave a voicemail, because I'm not answering, kind of a thing. And I'll respond within 24 business hours. Y'all not gonna kill me.
And keep it business hours. So that means 9 to 5.
Period.
Add it up.
Period. So any final thoughts you want to add? Because I feel like this has been so rich. But any final thoughts you want to add today?
I just love to say, give yourself some grace, right? Give yourself that permission to mess up once in a while. Give yourself that permission to, take a step back, like take that break that you need when you are starting to feel overwhelmed. Don't just try to keep powering through it. And that goes with anything in life. And really give yourself that chance to breathe and reevaluate what you need in your life at this moment, what your body is telling you in this moment, and just love on yourself as much as you possibly can.
Yeah, that's good. Well, Shanta, again, thank you so much for being here with us. This has been amazing. Please tell people where they can find you if they would like to connect with you to get some additional services, or, connect with Blue Therapy. Or I'm sorry, I'm probably getting it wrong. Tell us the name.
So you can connect with Blue Counseling and Wellness Center pretty much on everything. So we have Instagram. You can find me at NJ_sex therapist, or you can find the Blue Wellness page at Blue Wellness Center NJ, and center is CTR. And then it's NJ. Also on our website, www.bluewellnesscenter.com. And that's where we list all of our services. I also have a book out. So if you need that opportunity to rest and take a break, my book is called For Colored Girls Who Need a Break When Being a Superwoman Is Just Too Much. And it's an adult coloring book and guided journal. So I ask you questions all about your sex life, your romantic relationships, your family, your relationship with yourself, all those wonderful things. And you can get those both on the website or through Instagram as well.
So I'll be buying my book today. And because I did not know that, but I will be purchasing mine today. And again, I want to thank you so much for being here. It's been a pleasure. Y'all, you can't see her, but this skin is flawless. I'm over here like glowing. So yes.
Thank you.
So anyway, until next time, y'all, I'm proud of you. I love you and I'm here for you. So go get it. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.